good morning, everybody. Well, good morning, everybody. This is interesting. I wasn't sure if it was just me or if my timing was wrong or whatever. Anyway, I no doubt people will be joining us. It's interesting. Whenever you run these things, it's always a bit of a surprise. You know, who shows up and who doesn't. There were 150, 160 people registered. So far, we have the most important two people here. So we're doing well. How are you, Dean?
Very well, Ian, and yourself?
Excellent, thanks, mate. Really good to see you. And how are you, Fauzia? All the way from who knows where you are. I know you're somewhere in Asia. So anyway, welcome today. Yeah, it's an exciting one today. It's one that I've been really focused on for a lot of the work that I've been doing lately has been around this area, and yeah, it's just it's really cool. So now, Dean, just checking, can you see me, or do you see my shared screen? What do you see?
I see both, Ian. So I see your shared screen and also see you too.
Oh, lucky you. Hello, Fauzia. Nice to see you.
Hey, hi. Hi,
Okay.
good morning. And yeah,
So
and good
I'm
morning,
just going
Dean.
to dive in, and as people show up, they'll show up or not, whatever. But you guys are on time, so I'm just going to dive in. So, okay, the real truth about goal setting. What I firstly want to say is that, again, like all these master classes that I run, which I'm now starting to run them once a month, the idea is that they run as a class, not as a way of selling what I do or selling services or anything like that. This is a class that I would run for, and it's based on classes that I run for my own group of people that I work with. And so obviously we have more time. We don't just have an hour, so there's more interaction. But just so you know, there's nothing to buy. There's nothing. We're not selling anything today. This is about you taking notes for your own growth and your own development. So here's my three intentions of what you're going to get out of today. Firstly, you're going to identify the three reasons why we aren't creating the change that we want, both with ourselves and within organizations. Okay, so we're going to show you what the missing link is when it comes to your goal achievement, and it's so simple that you'll kick yourself. But once you actually understand it, you understand why change initiatives in organizations fail and why change initiatives with ourselves fail as well. And it's interesting, and we'll look at some of the stats later, but you know, they report that 74% of all change initiatives actually fail, and this is in organizations. Imagine the cost of that. It's just massive, right? I mean, it's less than 25% are actually successful. So that whatever change initiative it is, implementing a new software system, implementing a new KPI system, or a new you know, a New Year's resolution, whatever it is, 74% of them failed. And so at the end of the session, I'm going to give you 5 powerful self-reflection questions that are really going to drive your actions to move yourself forward. And at the end of the session, I'm actually going to give you probably the one question that has changed more, not only for myself, but more for my clients than any other question. When you actually just get this question and understand the implications of it, the power is pretty amazing. So if for whatever reason you need to bug out early, there's my email address. Just email me, and I'm more than happy to send you the copy of the session today. Okay, so the premise, we start with the premise. Does goal setting involve change? What do you think? Yeah, of course. Okay. We set the goal, but then, you know, and it's easy to set a goal, but then we've got to change our behavior. We've got to change the system. We've got to change the process. We've got to change the way we work. We've got to change our thinking in order to achieve this goal. So once we understand that goal setting involves change, And then if I go back to the previous slide, or here's the new slide, right? According to Harvard Business Review, 70% of all change initiatives fail. So is it any wonder then that 70% of our goal setting also collapses? Because part of goal setting, as we saw in the previous slide, is it involves change. And our ability to change is pretty lousy. We only have to look at our success rate of New Year's resolutions, right? Come to look at that. We set New Year's resolutions, everybody, yeah, this year we're going to, I'm going to. Only 8% of them are actually successful. So clearly something is missing here. Something is missing, and we're going to take a look at what is that something today. So I want to start with a beautiful, beautiful poem. It's by Portia Nelson, and it's called Autobiography in 5 Short Chapters. Whenever I start working with a client, whether it be one-on-one or whether it be one-on-many, so I'm working with organizations, and a lot of my work lately has been on change management, how do we implement change. We start with this poem. So let's go through it together, because it's really incredibly powerful. So chapter 1. I walk down the street and there's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in, I'm lost, I'm helpless. It isn't my fault, and it takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street, there's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it, and then I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it's not my fault, and it takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I fall in. It's a habit. I fall in. It's a habit, but my eyes are open. I know where I am. It's my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk, and I walk around it. And chapter 5 is I walk down another street. So there's 2 keys in this. There's 2 keys to this poem, and it's such a powerful, powerful story, right? The first one is we fall into holes habitually. Okay, organizations fall into the same holes habitually. And the other key is that it's my fault. And notice my is in small letters, because this is the child inside of us. We haven't done the emotionally intelligent work to actually look ourselves in the mirror as an adult, and rather than make excuses for what it is we're doing, we just go back to our child. Well, it's not my fault. This happened and this happened and this happened. There's all these stories that we create. But in the meantime, at the end of the day, we need to actually look at ourselves, look in the mirror and see what are we doing wrong. And this is really the focus of today. So there's 3 key reasons why we fail at change. The first one is our habitual thinking loops, whether they are personal habitual loops or whether they are organizational habitual loops. Just think of organizations that are top-down driven, okay, where the senior management makes all the decisions. Well, that's just a habit. We know today that organizations that thrive today don't operate from that paradigm anymore. That's just an old habit. Does it work? Well, just take a look at the engagement of the team at the lower ranks, and you'll very quickly see whether it's working or not. And we'll take a look at that in a minute. Okay. And the other thing is we have no awareness that we're actually running these habitual thinking loops. We're not even aware that this is actually going on. And even if we do, and even if we are aware that we're struggling with some old thinking patterns, we've got no effective means to shift our thinking. So, and I've showed this many times, and again, I lead with this pretty much in every session I do, right? Our focus equals reality. If you're seeing this as a 6 and someone else sees it as a 9, that is just, both of you are running the same habitual way of thinking. We get hooked in our little inner child goes, no, this is me, this is it, it's a 6, it's a 6, it's a 6. I go, no, can't you see it's a 9, it's a 9, and we go nowhere. Because our focus creates reality. And like, again, I share this with you. If I was to give you a pair of yellow tinted glasses, you put your yellow tinted glasses on, okay? And then you go through your life with these yellow tinted glasses, and I now show up in my blue t-shirt, are you going to see it as blue? No, you're going to see it as green. Why? Because yellow and blue makes green. So now you'll go to war screaming, it's green, it's green, it's green. But you don't understand, actually, all you need, if you just took your glasses off, you'd very quickly see that it's blue. And so what are these yellow tinted glasses? These are habitual patterns of thinking, which is why 70% of all, in fact, I saw this stat the other day, 74% of all change initiatives actually fail. Because we're wearing these yellow tinted glasses. And if I've got my yellow tinted glasses on and I'm seeing blue t-shirts as green t-shirts, well, can you see why there's going to be a problem? Okay, so let's understand why we do what we do. Because it's important if we're looking and saying, okay, well, hold on a minute, change is failing, let's understand why. So it always starts with the results. Let's take a look. We always start at the end. Results. Did we get the result that we want? We jump on the scale says we're overweight. That's a result. No judgment, it's just a result. We run an employment, an employee empowerment survey, and it says that, we suck from a point of view of engagement. That's just a result. That's just the result, okay? We're not upholding the company values. That's just a result. We're not even upholding our own values. That's just a result. So from results, we look and say, okay, what are the actions, what are the behaviors that are delivering that result? Because from results come from actions, from behaviors. That's it. We just strip out all the excuses and the reasons. At the end of the day, our results come from our actions and behaviors. If we're not achieving our sales budget, we need to look at our actions and our behaviors. That's simple, right? But our behaviors come from our decisions. So somewhere along the line, we are making a decision that is dysfunctional, leading to dysfunctional behaviors, leading to dysfunctional actions, which create poor results. And where do our decisions come from? Our decisions come from our thoughts, from our feelings. So if we've got thoughts and feelings, whatever those thoughts and feelings are, if we're on board and we're saying, yeah, this is awesome, let's go get it. Or if well, you know what, I kind of feel like I should, that should is going to affect your decisions, which are going to affect your behaviors, which ultimately are going to affect your results. And where do your thoughts and feelings come from? They come from your beliefs. So if you have a belief that, that this is just a fill-in job for me. Okay, think about that. How many people work in organizations where they're not totally bought into what that company is doing? In their mind, this is just a job, this is just a way to get revenue. Okay, that's a belief. How's that going to affect their thoughts and their feelings? Like when they wake up in the morning, do they go, yeah, let's go get them? Or they, back to the salt mines today, right? That's going to affect their decisions, which are ultimately going to affect their behaviors and going to affect the company's results. Effectively, they're running habitual rinse and repeat thought loop patterns. That's all. Here it is. Our thoughts create our feelings create behavior, and behaviors reinforces our thoughts, and round and round and round and round we go. That's simple. Simple, but not easy to change. Okay? We're just running a rinse and repeat cycle over and over again. So how do we actually stop the rinse and repeat? How do we get ourselves unhooked from this? Well, to do this, we have to start to think differently. For things to change, we need to change. We need to change the way we're thinking about it. We need to change how we're approaching this thing. So, you know, one of my favorite sayings from Albert Einstein, you can't solve a problem with the same thinking we used to when we created them. And so often I go into an organization or I'm working with a person one-on-one and they tell me what the issue is, they tell me what the problem is, and then they're trying to solve the problem from that place. Is it any wonder then why they just get the same crappy results? So here's an exercise just to prove this point, right? I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you just to, you can either just write on a piece of paper or just write, write it in your mind, okay? And the sentence completion exercise goes like this. Fill in the blanks really quickly. When I think about, and I'm going to give you the topic, okay, I feel about that topic, and as a result, I tend to do whatever behavior. So this is really quick. When you think about money, okay, you feel, so as an example, speaking to someone the other day, they feel like they never have enough money. They always have too much money left at the end of their money, right? So it creates stress in them. And as a result, they tend to, restrict themselves and not allow themselves to do certain things, okay? What about exercise? When I think about exercise, I feel excited or I feel, oh, it's a drain. I hate exercise. And therefore, if I really resist exercise, what's my behavior? Well, I'm just going to, when that snooze button goes to go for my walk or my run or whatever, the gym, I'm just going to hit the snooze button. Okay. What about relationships? When I think about the significant relationships in my life, when I think about my boss, or when I think about my spouse or significant other or my kids, okay, I feel what? You think about your boss and you feel stressed. Therefore, what's the behavior? So therefore, you're going to get an email from your boss that says, hey, let's talk. And immediately you're going to go into, oh my God, what's this about? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? Right? What about eating? What do we feel about eating? When I think about food, I feel I always eat the wrong foods. I'm hooked on, I'm a fast food junkie. And as a result, I feel really bad about myself. And therefore, what does it do? Well, in fact, all it does is reinforce behavior and I just eat more junk food. What about work? When you think about work, okay? When you think about work, you feel what? Excited, enthusiastic, you feel drained, feel stressed, feel overwhelmed. And as a result, if you are overwhelmed, what do you tend to do? Well, we tend to procrastinate. That's the behavior, procrastination, right? And the last one, let's think about your organization, your company, the company you work for, okay? When you think about the company you work for, you feel it's awesome, it's on the right track, they're really aligned, everyone's aligned, we're on, it's wonderful, or we think it's just run by a bunch of assholes, okay? And therefore, if it feels that way, it's a drag getting up and going to work every day. And therefore, what do? We tend to think of other things we could be doing rather than this, or we look we look up, maybe I should get my resume sorted or what have you. Those are the behaviors, right? So what do we notice then from this? We know that whatever you're feeling, you're going to make a choice from that. That's why they always say, never make a big life decision when you're feeling really crap, because you're going to make that decision from that point of view. Where are you choosing from? And unfortunately, most of us are choosing from bad thinking or dysfunctional thinking. So as an example, I sent you that values exercise to do prior to the session, and some of you would have done it and some of you wouldn't. It's really powerful. But if you've done it, did you notice that we're not living in complete alignment with those values? We've got these values over here that I'm aspiring for, but really I'm kind of living over here. So there's a disconnect between our values and really how we're living. So the question is, if we're making our choices from how we're living or from our values, is that going to impact our results? Of course. So let's take an organization. Most companies, their values aren't worth the paper that they are printed on. Would you agree? They're just, they're slapped up on the wall. These are our corporate values, and really they have no meaning whatsoever. They're just rubbish. Okay. So therefore, if we don't believe in the values of the company, is it any wonder why the person who's working 8 hours a day, on the front lines is disconnected from the company, because they don't understand the values that all they understand is, yes, the directors want more. But is more a value? Show me a company's value that says more. It's not there. But the behavior is more. So there's a disconnect between our values. And, one of the first things that I'm doing these days when we do corporate change initiatives is to come in and actually look at what are your values and are they actually even relevant anymore? Does the guy down on the shop floor, in your case, or in your case, Fauzi, does the sales rep who's out there knocking on the door, have they bought, or the customer service person, do they understand the values of the company, and really have they bought into it? And even if they do and they have bought into it, is the boss actually living those values? So the first thing we do is we have to, if you want a culture change, if you want to shift the way your business is running, we look at the values and we say, well, are they still relevant? And if they are, how do we re-engage people to the values? Because from the values come the organizational culture. And again, it's the same with us, right? So here are 5 what I call self-reflection questions. But before we dive into the questions, let's just do a quick review. Understanding that the reason we're not achieving what we want from a goal-setting perspective, the reason is because we have faulty thought patterns. Our habits of thinking are faulty. Our habits of thinking are disconnected from our goals, disconnected from our values. I'm just going to go back one slide here to this and say, okay, when you set a goal, are our goals actually in line with our values? So you look at the values that you came up with when you did that exercise, and now you set a goal. Are your goals actually in line with those values? And most of the time, they're not. So is it any wonder why now it feels like we're fighting against thunder here, right? Because we're not actually aligned to our values, our personal values. So now we set this goal. So let's say, if you took a look at your top 5 values and health and fitness wasn't a value. Now you set a goal, well, I'm going to get healthy and fit. Can you see how now we're fighting against ourselves? So we've got to get really clear on our values and set our goals from our values, not from just outside influence, because what's that going to get us? Where are we choosing from? Where are we choosing from? Okay, so here are the 5 self-reflection questions. And again, keep in mind that these are for you to understand your own habitual thought loop patterns when it comes to your goal setting and not achieving them. So you can do this exercise either thinking from your own personal point of view, or you can think from an organizational point of view. Either way, just go down that road. So if you're thinking about, okay, why do I not achieve my goals, or why is the company not achieving its goals? Same thing, just the questions will apply equally as powerfully. Okay, so the first question: what mental habit pattern do you repeatedly find yourself roadblocking your goal achievement despite actually wanting to change? So what mental habit pattern do you repeatedly find yourself roadblocking your goal achievement despite wanting to change? So what you want to do is you want to identify the specific mental habit or habits that act as your barrier to your personal goal growth or goal achievement. And so here it is. What's the friction point? What is it that's stopping you, and what's the impact of that? So just take a minute and just write it down. Whatever the goal is, just what's the habit that I keep running into, it keep roadblocking me, okay? And what's the impact of that? So I'll give you an example, personal example. So I really, really want to cultivate the habit of daily meditation. Not sometimes, not when I feel like it, but daily. I want it to be a part of my daily routine. At the moment, I would say on average, I probably meditate 3 on a good week, maybe 4 times a week. So I go and say, so what is the habit that's roadblocking me? And the habit that's roadblocking me is that I, believe it or not, I don't get up in time. So by the time I get up, there's no time. I'm busy rushing. I've got to go to the pool. I've got to swim. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And so what I've got this habit running where I don't get up in time. That's my friction point, and the impact is, therefore, I don't get to have what I want to have, whether it be on the weekend or whether it be during the week, same thing, right? So what is it for you? What's the friction point and what's the impact of that? Now, question 2. Can you identify a recurring trigger that sets off this undesirable habit? What's the recurring trigger? So recognizing triggers is crucial for understanding the conditions under which the mental habit occurs, setting the stage for targeted change interventions. So let me use a company example, right? So what are the triggers? Working with a company, and they sell huge, big industrial equipment, okay? And the mental habit that the salespeople are in is that they are intimidated by the decision maker, which happens to be a CEO or somebody really at a very senior level. They're intimidated. So they have a mental habit that says, I am not as good because I don't have the same level of knowledge, level of skill. I never went to university, or whatever going on inside their head. And so what that does is that the trigger is, as soon as they know that they've got to go and speak to someone at a senior level, the trigger is they go, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Who am I to go and speak to this person? Who am I to go and speak to the CTO of a huge multinational company? Who am I? Okay. So what are the conditions that create that? The conditions are easy. It's easy when I'm speaking to the users to, gather the information, but as soon as I get to a higher level, I drop the ball. Okay, so we need to recognize that. Third one, what reward or what gain do you believe you're getting from continuing this mental habit pattern, even if it doesn't serve you well? Such a powerful question. What reward or what gain do you believe you or your company is getting from continuing this mental habit pattern, even if it's not serving you well? So let's take a disempowered organization, an organization where the people are disempowered. Okay. So what reward is the company getting? Well, as long as the company keeps meeting its weekly or monthly or quarterly targets, okay, that's the reward. So the company, the senior players are being rewarded for poor behavior for poor leadership. Okay. And just because they continue thinking, well, I must be doing something right because look at the results. The fact is that they, bludgeoning people, you have a high turnover of staff. You can't hold on to your good people. We're not looking at that. We're just looking at quarterly results, quarterly results, quarterly results. That's just a habit pattern. And it's a bad habit pattern because how do every organization is made up of people. And if your people are running poor mental habits, what are your results going to be? Okay. So the question here then is, unpacking the reward reveals the habit perceived belief. So when you unpack what am I getting out of it, it reveals the perceived benefit, highlighting why it might be so challenging to rewire. And so therefore what egoic needs are being met through it. So let's go back to my meditation. I'm lying in bed. If I look at the reward that I get, if I stay in bed, the reward that I get to snuggle with my wife, I get to snuggle with the puppies, and it's a really strong reward. If I get up and out of bed, I miss out on that whole event. And that sounds crazy, but when I unpack this was the big thing, why I wasn't getting out of bed. I'd get out of bed and my wife would say, where are you going? And then I say, well, I'm going to meditate. And it's almost like, oh, okay, now we miss out on that snuggle time or what have you. Okay. And so it reinforces the same habit. Okay. So what reward, what gain, and what is the perceived benefit of that? Okay. Very, very powerful question. What reward is the company getting? And what's the perceived benefit? And notice the perceived benefit is not even true. It's just a perception. Number 4, what if you could replace this mental habit with a more positive one? What would it be and why? Okay. So what you here need to do is you need to envision an alternative. You foster a positive, proactive, solution-focused mindset, moving from a problem identification to problem solving. Okay. So if I look here, what's my current mental thought pattern? Well, again, my current mental thought pattern is that I want to stay in bed. I want to, with all the benefits that I'm getting from that, what's an alternative? Well, the alternative I came up with was, okay, prior to going to sleep, I actually tell my wife, sweetheart, tomorrow morning, I'm getting up early to go and meditate. She now knows that when I leave the bed, she doesn't have to ask me. And it just something as simple as that, and it's actually solved. Right? But I really had to get in and kind of figure out, okay, what's the issue here? In an organization perspective, what's the current mental thought pattern? Well, the current mental thought pattern is, okay, you strive, you push, you do whatever you need to get to the top. And then when you get to the top, now you can tell people what to do. Okay. What's an alternative to that? Alternative to that is understanding emotional intelligence and emotional resilience and emotional maturity, really learning those skills and teaching those skills to leaders so that they, from that place, they start to run the business as opposed to running the business from their child. You have to look at your politicians to see children actually with far too much power. I mean, the most well-known person in the world today is Donald Trump. And he's just a big child. Doesn't matter whether you believe he's right or wrong. Look at the way he behaves. You see, he's a big child. And many of our companies are being run by big children. Okay. So this is now the key. What's one small step you can take towards modifying the behavior? Not going from Saul to Paul overnight, nothing like that. Just what's the smallest thing that you can do that's going to modify this habit? Focus on actionable, achievable steps that makes the process of change appear more manageable, encouraging immediate action to gather momentum. Okay? So what's the friction? And what's the most obvious action to take? Well, in my case, like I said, the most obvious action to take, easy. talk to my wife, tell her that this is the resistance point, and this is what I'm thinking we should do. I'll talk to you the night before, and that should hopefully solve the issue. She might have a different point of view. Great. We put it all in the mix and we come up with a solution that's going to work for both of us. As far as companies go, one of the first things we do is to say, okay, guys, look, I think we need to realign the company to the values. Now, you might say, well, that's too big. Everyone's going to say, oh, we live our values. But truthfully, if you think about it, even your managing director, if he was totally honest with himself, if you just asked him, what are our values, they probably couldn't tell you. Not the ones that are on the wall anyway. Okay, what does that say? If you can't say what your values are, how are you going to live them? How are you going to make decisions from that place? If one of your values is, that the customer, here's one that I ran into the other day. If you're not serving a customer directly, then you need to service the person who is. Now, that was the company value. If I'm not serving the customer directly, then I need to serve the person who is. Great value to have. How's that working out for you? Now, if you're making decisions from that point of view, if let's say the head of administration for the company is making a decision from that place, if I'm not serving a customer directly, which I'm not, I'm serving the people who are, therefore, how's that going to inform the policies and procedures that I'm going to create from an administration point of view? It's going to affect everything. How can I make it easy for these people to serve someone else? You look at some of the HR policies, and they're so restrictive because we're so scared of, legal consequences. Rubbish. How can I serve the people still within the boundaries that are actually serving the customer? So what's the most obvious action to take in that case? So if that's your belief, one of your most obvious actions might be, maybe we need to run a session for our senior management on what emotional intelligence is, emotional maturity and emotional resilience. Let's just start there, because once they actually get that, that's going to inform their behavior. From there, we can go to values and culture and all the rest. But maybe that's the place to start. So what's the most obvious action to take? And again, if you just make it simple, we don't have to climb Mount Everest. We only have to go, journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first one. What's the most obvious action to take? And I love that sentence. What's the most obvious action to take? And it's never a big one. It's just, okay, let's send an email. Let's send an email to the boss. Hey, boss, I was on this, I was on a masterclass, and they were talking about XYZ, and I think there's an opportunity here that we could be missing. What's the most obvious question? And here's the bonus question, which is, how will I define winning today? If you got up every morning and you said, okay, how do I define winning today? And it doesn't have to be a huge win. Okay, focus on winning today. Actually, what does it look like? And what do I need to do to accomplish that? And again, here's the tip, just make it easy. If it's just a small win, because small wins stack on top of each other, one win stacked on another one, stacked on another one, that has huge consequences. So today, winning looks like what? And what's the most obvious action that I can take to win? The father of self-esteem, Nathaniel Branden, said this: the reputation you have with yourself, your self-esteem, is the single most important factor for a fulfilling life. So if I go back to this, right, if you don't set a goal to win, or you don't figure out what's the most obvious action to take and take it, the impact of that is that it affects your self-esteem. It affects the relationship. It affects the reputation you have with yourself. Because you're not fulfilling what you said you were going to do. That's why I go back and I say, well, hold on a minute. Make it easy. What's the easiest thing you can do? And again, you know, if you do what's easy today or what's difficult today, in a year's time, if you keep stacking, it's going to be easy tomorrow. It's going to be easy next year. But you've got to start with what's easy. You've got to start getting the wins. Because remember, the reputation you have with yourself, your self-esteem, it has an impact on your self-esteem. And that's the most important single factor for a fulfilling life. So I promised you the most powerful question of all, and I promise you, if you will actually embrace this question and take this question back into your personal life and take this question back into your business life, things will change dramatically. I've seen it in my own life. I see it with my clients. I see it with companies that I work with. And here's the question. What are the habits I need to cultivate and inculcate into my life, organization, to be the person who achieves their best life? So let's run it from a company point of view. What are the habits that this company needs to cultivate and inculcate into the organization so that the organization and the people who work for it can achieve their best life? They enjoy what they're doing, right? What are the habits that I need to cultivate for myself and inculcate into my life to be the person who achieves their best life? So let me tell you, I did this, right? I looked at all the things that I wanted. I just wrote them all down. Yeah, meditate, swim, walk on the beach, take the dogs for a walk, have my green smoothie. I had a whole list of things. There were about 8 or 10 things. I said, okay, those are what I want to do. I'm not doing them. I do them sporadically. They're not a habit yet. How can I create a habit? So I wrote down all the days of the week from Monday through to Sunday. And then I just took my list and I just appropriate per day. Some there were doubles. So, drink a green smoothie and meditate was for the same day. But walking and swimming and, stretching, I put those on different days. And now my week is full and I have no guilt. So yes, okay, should I actually swim 3 times a week? Probably. But you know what? My week is full, so I swim twice a week. And I stretch once a week. And I go to a yin yoga class once a week. I've managed to take all the things I want to do and I just put them into a week. I made it easy for myself to win. What are the habits that I needed to cultivate and inculcate into my life? So I spread them over my life to achieve and become the person who achieves the best life. And it's just great. I don't have guilt anymore about I'm not doing this, I should be doing more of that, because I'm just doing it and it's easy. So easy. So with that in mind, let's just pause and let's have a share. What are your thoughts about what we've covered here today? Insights, ahas, questions? Any?
For myself, Ian,
Yeah.
I think this is invaluable because I'm in a position at the moment where we're trying to really elevate the operational department within YD.
Okay.
And there's a lot of friction with specific leaders in the brand because it's an area that, one, we probably don't focus on enough to be able to form a positive habit. And they are also a little bit resilient in change.
Of course.
So I think just such a simple framework or just call it a tool for them to be able to use, or even for me to work through to get to some root causes, like what the frustrations are, just so we're able to move forward in certain areas around operations. So I thought today's session was a great one because it's definitely something that I need as of tomorrow, if that makes sense.
No,
So
totally.
there's definitely some great learnings and taking out some really good points.
That's beautiful. And and the thing is, Dean, if we understand that all that's happening is the resistance is our old habitual thinking patterns. That's all it
It's
is. It's
exactly
not
what it
because
is.
they are belligerent. It's not because they don't care about the company or or they want to say screw you or what. It's just they're in an old thinking pattern. And so
Exactly what it is.
that's all it is. So until they get a new vision and then buy into that new vision for what it could be, and if they've taken part in the creation of that new vision and understand if I did this, what's in it for me, except all the stuff that we know. And then we say, okay, now let's just choose. Like I did a values workshop with an organization last week, and I said, okay, for the next 30 days, let's just try these values on. Let's not go and print and go to the ad agency and print posters and none of that. Let's just try it on and see what's working, what doesn't work. Oh, yes, but we need to wordsmith them. Rubbish. They're good enough. Let's just go and play with them and
Yeah.
see, do they fit? Do they fit? Start making decisions from that place and let's see the impact of those decisions. It's absolutely, thank you, Dean. It's really powerful. We're so locked up in our way of thinking, and then I see this as a 6, you see it as a 9. No, you just got your yellow glasses on. Of course you're going to see it as a 9. Of course you're going to see my t-shirt as green. What else could it be? We
So
have to
true.
help them take their glasses off. Yeah,
So true.
big. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
What about you, Fausia?
Yeah, Ian. I think this is really, that I try to find the words, that it's really awakening. Yeah, I call it awakening. I remember that when you came to our organizations, talk about the value propositions, why still did not work, right? It's about the habit, the change of habit. We learn about all these techniques, right? But the motivations, the actions, and the thinking that uh, it's basically consistency to do it. It's not there. So I'm not sure that what words call it, the desire, okay, the desire to change, even though that since all these are perfect. However, that that I think there's a one big force that could change it. If there is a one strong believer from the top, which is the leaders, right, who make the walk, that's the thing that's that it could also change the way of the people below them to change the habit. It has to start from the top. So sometimes
Well,
this is my view, right? Sometimes my view that that we the management, the leaders need to show to show it first and make it work. It doesn't matter whether it's a 10%, 20%. So turn a new page by doing it.
absolutely. And again, if we understand, Fauzi, if we understand that it's a habit, that's all it is. It's a thinking habit that even managing directors have. Okay, they're just stuck in this way of thinking. And the worst part is that as long as they keep getting results, they don't have to change. They don't have to change. I mean, if we just look at our own corporate landscape, recently we had one of the CEOs of one of our largest supermarket chains resign. Okay. Now, until things started coming unglued, everyone thought he was a hero. All of a sudden, they come unglued, and he can't lie to himself anymore. The public weren't supporting him. His own team weren't supporting. He can't lie anymore. Okay, and that's the problem. We believe our own bullshit. But what is that? It's just old habitual thought patterns that we're stuck in, which is why, by the way, we hate changing. Not human beings actually don't mind change. Why do we go on holidays? For a change of scenery. So we like change. Trouble is, when we understand big change, we understand that all it is we're shifting a habit. Well, how do you change any habit? It's not about desire. Yes, I want to be able to run a marathon. That's my desire, but the habit is I want to stay in bed. And that habit is so reinforced and so old, it sucks us back, it pulls us back. So that yes, I've got the desire to move forward, but I've got this vacuum sucking me back in. And what is the vacuum? The vacuum is just an old habit pattern. That's it. Doesn't make me a bad person, doesn't make me wrong, doesn't make your managing director bad or wrong, just means they haven't actually sat and said, okay, what habits do I need to change?
But
Yeah.
yeah, uh, Ian, I want to go into habits, right? Everybody has a desire, right? It's just that one needle, like to change the habits, that including me, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
also, that you're talking about the meditations, right? So stronger desire, changing the habits, that are that's how would I would say that, that within myself, right? Within myself, I want it. But when I always give excuse, right, because of the limitation,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like power, the set power that I'm going to make it happen. I don't care. I will wake up at 5 o'clock, at 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have that power, the enough power that, that it doesn't matter what day is it. It doesn't matter that, if it's rained or it's too hot. So how can I start with the little power?
Okay, very good question. Okay. Well, if you look, if we go back, and I'm just going to take us all the way back to here, right? Your belief that you have is that you don't have enough power.
Mm.
Therefore, that's going to affect your thoughts, that's going to affect your decisions and your behaviors and results. Okay. So the first thing you have to actually start to you've got to change the belief that actually you do have power. And how do you what's one small thing that you can do to start grow this belief or start to change the habitual thought pattern that I don't have power? What's one small thing you can do that reinforces that belief that yes, I do have power? So an example might be, could you step out of your comfort zone and send an email, one that you have been resisting to send for a long time, and you send it and you say, oh, I just put it out, happens. Okay. Now, if you're not sure if your email's right, take your email, put it into ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT to clean up the email, make it look all nice and corporate or what have you, and then send it. It's just small little things. What's a small win that you can do? And then once you get that win, then you stack it to another win and you stack another one and stack another one. And before you know it, you're starting to shift this belief that I don't have power. Of course you have power. Okay, it's only a belief, and that belief is just a habitual thought pattern. I don't have enough power. I'm only, I'm a woman in a man's world. That's just a belief.
Mm.
Okay. Does that answer the question?
um, I kind of like thinking that, power with authority, right, in organizations, right, do that what you mentioned that we can do, that send an email, do this. But because of the in organization, in the company, um the power can be suppressed with the authority. Is that something that,
Of course.
yeah,
But we're not talking, but
how can you get the
can't,
power over
okay,
authority? Yeah. And that's
okay.
change it.
Fausia,
You
you
don't
know,
need authority to make a change.
that's right. Okay. So that's where it starts. It starts with you. What can you do? And within your own power, within the organization, within the structure of the organization, what can you do to start exercising your own power and start doing that? And when you do that, people start looking and say, oh, what's Fausia doing? How do I get some more of that? So you influence, but it starts with yourself. You've got to start, okay, what are my own thoughts that are keeping me locked up and restricting me from exercising my own power? Because as long as you keep looking up and say, well, I can't because the authority of the organization, you're stuck. You're staying in that same thought loop pattern. But when you say, okay, what can I do? What's one thing that I can do today? What's one win that I can do today? Well, one win is I can go and, I've been working with one person. I'm now going to just totally empower them to go and do the job on their own and see what the results are. Just one small thing. But it's within our own control, because you cannot control what your managing director does. You can't even control what your partner does. You can only look at where am I and what do I need to do. So, and I'm going to move on just from a point of view of time. Thank you, guys. That was really, really good. I appreciate the input. Really good questions. So, where am I? Okay. So I encourage you to, figure out what habits do you need to cultivate and inculcate them into your life to be the person, or to be the organization, or be the division, or be the department that achieves its best results.
Yeah.
And by the way, and again, if you want to reach out to me, feel free. Just drop me an email. Happy to set up a time we can talk if you want to take this thing further. And yeah, I appreciate your time. It's now we've been going at this now for an hour. I appreciate your time. By the way, drop me a line if there's anything that you would like me to cover in next month's masterclass. I've already got some ideas, but it's always helpful to get some input from you guys. So appreciate it. Thank you. Have a fantastic weekend. And this has been recorded, so if you want the recording, drop me a line and I'll send it through to you.
Yeah.
Would love it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ian.
Cheerio.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.